I love how we are now like questioning the status, or I don't even want to say status because I think we are missing in our music, in black music. I think we're missing the heart and the art between hip hop, and now people are starting to talk about R&B, and I just find it funny that we're getting to that pivotal moment to where, because a lot of, I would say my generation, millennial and up, we always knew what was going to be missing, but we kind of went with the times versus the newer kids that just became an adult. Like they kind of grew up with this clubby music. You know what I'm saying? Like they like if they're the older Gen Zs, they understand the 90s music, but the younger Gen Zs don't. Like it doesn't hit them. I don't want to say they don't listen to or don't understand. It doesn't hit them like it hit us. And now that they're the prime adults now, they are the result of the clubby style of music, the hit records, da 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 da. And that's what, to me, I feel happened in our culture is that we let the integrity, the art die, and we sold it for record deals and gold chains. And it's been like that for a long time. But I think now we're getting to the point, especially with the hip hop battle, we're getting to the point where R&B is starting to be in the I don't want to say crossfires, but it's starting to be forefront. Like we need to start to address this, in which I am happy we are getting to that, because as a singer songwriter myself, when I grew up and I listened to the greats, I listened to Whitney, I listened to Mariah, whatever. I taught myself how to sing by mimicking them because they had their signatures. Mariah had the high note, Whitney was the voice, you know what I'm saying? And so I mimicked the best I could, but that's kind of how I taught myself how to sing. And so we don't have that. We don't have signatures. There's a difference between gifted and talented. The gifted people are not here. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck. No, the gifted people are non-existent. What we have is a lot of talent. It's not shade, but it's just, you know how to carry a tune, bet, get on the track. Versus people who actually voice control, who actually take fucking lessons, who actually sit here and get on a treadmill and run while they're singing. We don't have that. We just have people that's trying to get in the booth, cut a record, yada, yada, yada. And so the art of singing, to me, has, like everything else, has dwindled because now it's fast track. Now it's fast paced. You know, even the beats, nothing wrong with the 808, yada, 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 but slow that bitch down. You go back to half notes, whole notes. I don't have a timer, so I really don't know, but go back to that. The instrumental and the voices, we don't have that. Everything is talking, singing. The feeling is gone. You have one fucking job as a singer, and that is to take a set of words and make that shit mean something, and that you feel it in your soul. And then when I hear people talking about, oh, that shit hit different, or that, and I'm like, really? This lightly to heavy heavy headed, this lightly salted to heavy handed fucking auto tune. Like again, even when I'm in the booth, because when I first started singing, there's this mono something that if you're off key, it will put you in the key that you need to be. Now I'm like, don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. I'll redo it. I don't like that shit. I don't like any. No. I like it as much as I like it as natural as possible. because you still have to mix it, the reverbs, but don't touch the notes. That's my job, right? And to me, I feel like the integrity, the art form, the dedication to the actual art, not the charts, the arts, not the charts, is what we're missing in our music all across the board. It's we got lost in the sauce, we lost the plot. And so hopefully we can get back to singers that can actually sing. Again, nothing's wrong with auto-tune. And a lot of people like to throw T-Pain under the bus because T-Pain was auto-tune, but he pioneered the sound, which is why he could fucking get away with it. Also, he could fucking sing, like for real. He could hold whole notes. He can do the runs up and down. I can bet you, shit, he's a producer. I know he knows the scales. I don't even know if half of y'all know what do, re, mi, fa, sol is, or how to do the little, the fa, sol, la. Anyway, but we need to get back to the actual art, not the charts, okay? So now, because I have nobody else to really talk to about these things, where the fuck is my glasses? I need to be dramatic. Them things ain't prescription. Here they are. But I need to be dramatic. I went ahead and asked my handy dandy buffer. All right. So I said, let's talk about R&B and how now the concern is how it lacks luster and it's not the same. It's not the same whatever bullshit. Two things happen here. The hyper individualism, as in especially the female culture, the female side. We don't need nobody. We get on our own, blah, 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 bad bitch, da, 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 da. Nothing's wrong with that. But now, since we had 30 years of that, we have become a shell. And then guys, because again, they get so lost in the throw the $100 bills, call the bitch a bitch, get whatever you need, don't pimp these, don't trust these hoes ain't loyal. So now, they lost the desire side. So we built a shell, and then they lost the wanting and desire and and we seem more so disposable now. Okay, if that makes sense. So we became too individualized. There's nothing wrong with having songs like that because you need it during a breakup, like fuck that nigga, fuck that bitch. I understand that, but the whole culture, the whole art has become that. So let me get back to it. So hyper individualism. I don't need a man. I don't need a bitch. I'm independent. These hoes ain't loyal. Once that became the main cadence to songs, the desire for companionship died. The wanting, longing, desire. Now it's you're being a creep, a simp, a pick-me. Two. The same with hip hop. Once money and clubs became the target audience, the integrity of the art got lost. I did a hip hop video, which I mentioned this. So two, same with hip hop. Once money and the clubs became the top target audience, the integrity of the art was lost. Again, we care about more of the charts than we care more about the art. Now people can argue they do sing about love. Nah. It's giving more baby mama and baby daddy vibes. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's giving baby mama and baby daddy culture, not death do us part. And I kid you not. I don't give a fuck how they feel about what I said about this, but I mean what I say. We are in a point of music to where we're not wanting an individual, we're wanting access to an individual for whatever reason, whether guys is being sex or whether women is being their pockets. We are not talking about wanting an actual person to be in your life, to make me feel better, you're making me feel good. We don't talk about that. We talk about wanting access to whatever the opposite sex or the same sex wants, right? So let me continue. So yes, y'all giving me baby mama and baby daddy vibes. Y'all not trying to sit here the good time. What is it? Long time for a good time. Good time for a long time. You trying to have a good time for a long time. You ain't trying to be here to death do us part, right? Plus, I would go far to say we allow everyone who can carry a tune to lead charge. There's a difference between talent and those who are gifted. Artists had signature. Mariah, high notes. Whitney was the voice, etc. Now it's monotone without, but most likely heavy auto-tune. So now it's monotone without or most likely heavy auto-tune. So this is what chat does. You're tapping into real culture shifts, and it's deeper than just R&B fell off. What you're describing is the change of emotional philosophy. What you're describing is a change in emotional philosophy, industry economics, and artist gatekeeping all at once. Let's break it down. The three real fractures. The death of longing, hyper-individualism replaced emotional surrender. Classic R&B was built on emotional vulnerability and relational dependency. The entire genre was rooted in yearning, devotion, heartbreak, reconciliation. Hell no. Reconciliation. I told y'all. Reconciliation. Damn. Okay. Bitch, what you say? Reconciliation. So the entire genre was rooted in yearning, devotion, heartbreak, reconciliation, emotional risk. Listen to Whitney singing "I Have Nothing." That song is emotional exposure. She's not protecting her ego. She's offering her soul. On Mariah singing "We Belong Together," she sounds desperate, not weak, human. That desperation was the point because love requires surrender. Modern R&B, by contrast, is emotionally defensive. Things shift to emotional detachment, preemptive independence, distrust as default, ego preservations. Examples: I don't need you, I'm good on my own, he ain't shit anyway, I replaced you already. Even when modern artists like SZA or Summer Walker sing about love, is often framed through damage control, not emotional surrender. The emotional posture changed from "I need you" to "I'll survive you." That's a complete different nervous system. Second, capitalism in the clubs replaced the living room. How that is a bar. Old R&B was designed for bedrooms, slow jams, car rides at night, emotional intimacy. Newer R&B is often designed for playlists, clubs, algorithm engagement, background vibes. This happened when hip-hop became the dominant commercial force. Once hip-hop proved money things sells, flexing sells, status sells, R&B began merging with that framework. Artists like Usher could sing Confessions in 2004, and it was deeply emotional, flawed human. Today, emotional messiness gets flattened to aesthetic moods, music. The goal shifted from emotional connection to sonic aesthetics. What does sonically mean? Third, the collapse of vocal gatekeeping. This is one of the biggest structural changes. Before, you cannot enter R&B without undeniable vocal ability. There was a clear hierarchy. Gifted vocalists, trained singers, church-developed voices. Artists like Aretha Franklin, Brandy, Beyonce had vocal control, tone identity, dynamic range, emotional phrasing. You can identify them with one note. Now technology allows people with pleasant voices to compete with people who have extraordinary instruments. Auto-tune originally was creative, now it's an aesthetic. It flattened vocal individuality into one emotional tune: breathy, detached, muted, restrained. This is why many singers sound emotionally distant, not because they don't feel, but because the vocal style prioritizes mood over projection. 4. Emotional authenticity versus emotional branding. Older R&B artists sounded like they were singing because they had no choice. Modern artists sometimes sound like they are singing because it fits their brand. Pain used to sound involuntary. Now it's curated. There's less vocal cracking, dynamic explosion, uncontrolled emotional releases, more controlled sadness, less surrender, more performance. But this is 5. R&B didn't die. It fragmented. The longing, it still exists, but it moved underground or into hybrid artists. Artists keeping emotional depth alive includes Jasmine Sullivan, devastating emotional realism. Giveon, I haven't really heard his music. Deep tonal identity. Her, vulnerability and musicianship. Lucky Daye, classic emotional structure. But they exist in different ecosystems. They aren't the dominant cultural sound. So technically R&B is not dead, but the R&B that we know and love that was more longer than 2 minutes a song, yeah, that gone. 6. The deeper truth. Culture itself became emotionally avoidant. Music reflects emotional norms, which is why it's important that music, I don't want to say be regulated. I don't want to say that. But once we start to notice certain shifts and it ain't going so hot, like at the culture as a community, as regular people, I don't even fuck about the artists, but as regular people. And if it starts to head one way, we need to figure we need to draw this bitch back. And we've been on that extreme for a very long time and we need to draw it back. Anyway, where was I at? Music reflects emotional norms. We live in an era of ghosting, situationships, emotional ambiguity, fear of vulnerability. Old R&B reflected a culture where people believed in forever, marriage, devotion, emotional endurance. Modern R&B reflects emotional instability and distrust. It didn't create the shift, it documented it. That's true, I'll give it that. Your point about gifted versus carrying a tune is critical. Gifted singers just don't hit notes. They bend emotions through sound. It's your fucking job. It's your only, I don't say only instrument, but it's your instrument. You need to learn how to play that bitch. Right? But the sound, Whitney didn't just sing notes. She transmitted the nervous system states. That's rare. A rarity creates reverence. When everyone can enter, reverence disappears. Reverence. The core summary in one sentence: R&B didn't lose talent. It lost emotional permission to need someone. That's why it feels different. Now, I like watching reactors react to shit, and especially like younger ones react to music that I listened to when I was growing up. And they were listening to Aaliyah's album, the first one. The one that had Choosy Lover on it. That was what they were listening to. And they were just vibing and vibing. Now, that song, if you remember, it's because it's a sample. She redid it, my bad. Not a sample, but she redid it. It's Isley Brothers. And then, like 4 minutes in, Timbaland, that my nigga right there, Timbaland did his own beat, and then she redid the song to that beat. So the song itself is 7 fucking minutes, right? Anyway, so I'm listening to it, and they're vibing to it, and they're loving it, yada, 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 yada. And it was no disrespect, but I understood. But he was like she's not even saying nothing. She's saying the same thing, but every time she repeats it, it's something different. And it's because you're stacking. It's because you're panning. It's because you're bending certain words. You're making it soulful. You're making it breathy. You're making it this. You're making it that. It wasn't necessarily about lyrics. It was about how you sang the song, right? We don't have that. We don't have the stacking. We don't have the panning. It's one thing to have a low and a high end. A low and a high end. But it's another thing to add notes and know, like, if you're doing a C chord, that you're going to sit here and do the damn, I need to have a thing, but you're going to hit the C and the let me do the A. If you're going to do the A chord, you're going to hit the A, you're going to hit the C, you're going to hit the E. Or if you're going to do the minor, you're going to hit the C, A, then you're going to hit the, you see what I'm saying? You'll sing it again, but in different tunes and in different ones. You'll add a diminish, your 7, you'll add a something, you'll add a minor note, whatever it is. But that's because you know your voice and you know the scales and you know how to bend it. That's what makes it important. Not necessarily the words, is how you perform said words. So I just thought that was funny because I'm like, yes, that was a thing. What people hear now is just like, again, monotone. One main vocal, and then they might go high, they might go low, and then they call it a record. And I'm like, no, it used to be complex. I mean, So I just thought that was funny. So going back to chat. Exactly. I was watching Reactors, and I think they were listening to Aaliyah's first album, and they were into it. Stated she wasn't saying anything, meaning she was repeating the chorus and the bridge over and over. But it was still a vibe because there was harmony depths playfully every time she would re-sing. And I'm like, that's how it's supposed to be. You're a singer. You have one job, which is vocal agility, to showcase your range of your craft. This is your craft, which is why singers don't need to write their songs. Their sole purpose is performance. But listening to younger generations, even though they gave her props saying that she's repeating the same lyric or the song too long, it's because this is a vibe, a real vibe, a soul stability, not a club anthem, right? It's just to ground the soul. Chat goes, you just articulated one of the most misunderstood truths about R&B. Repetition was never lazy. It was a vehicle for emotional exploration. What artists like Aaliyah were doing wasn't about lyrical density. It was about vocal reinterpretation of the same emotional phrase. And that's a completely different skill. One, in real R&B, the voice is the instrument, not just the messenger. When Aaliyah repeats a line, she's not saying the same thing. She's reshaping it emotionally each time. One pass might be softer, breathier, layered with harmonies, slightly behind the beat. One pass more vulnerable. Same words, different emotion temperature. This is called vocal phrasing and dynamic interpretation. Artists like Brandy, Janet Jackson, Toni Braxton were masters at this. They could repeat one sentence for 60 seconds and keep you emotionally engaged because the performance evolves. Second, modern listeners are trained to prioritize novelty over depth. Today's listeners grew up in the streaming era. Streaming rewards faster transistors, shorter songs, immediate stimulation, constant novelty. Our older R&B came from a different listening culture. Cassette tapes, CDs, sitting with albums front to back, emotional immersion. Songs weren't just trying to compete with infinite scroll. They were creating emotional environments. You weren't consuming it, you were entering it. 3, R&B was originally closer to jazz than pop. This is critical to understand. R&B inherited its DNA from gospel and jazz traditions. Those traditions prioritize improvisation. Yeah, that's what I thought. Sorry. Those traditions prioritize improvisation, reinterpretation, emotional nuance, vocal layering. In jazz, repeating a musical phrase is expected because the artistry is in how you reinterpret it. Listen to Erykah Badu. She'll sit inside a phrase and stretch it emotionally, not lyrically. Modern pop prioritizes lyrical progression. Classic R&B prioritizes emotional progression. Singing was treated as physical craft, not just an expression. Singers were trained to use their voice like athletes use their bodies. Control over breath, vibrato, tone placement, layering, harmonic stacking. Listen to background vocals in older records. Where's the background vocals now? Where's the background vocalist now? And not just during a performance when they just doing, yeah, mama, like, no. Where are the actual background vocalists that can carry a tune just like the motherfucker up front? You remember there was if you were a singer for real, you were the first part, or anybody in music, it was like the first person, and then you're like the second runner up. And that's how it is. Like the strongest person will always get the first place, and then the second strongest person, the second, and everybody else, y'all just in the back. But anyway, so listen to background vocals in older records. They weren't fillers, they were architectural. Artists like Whitney Houston would stack their own harmonies to create emotional density. The background vocals were extensions of the lead vocal psyche, not decorations. 5. Modern vibes sometimes remove the vocal center entirely. Ironically, the word vibe changed meaning. Before vibe came from the human voice interacting with instruments. I read that a whole different way. Before, the vibe came from the human voice interacting with instrumentation. Now the vibe comes from the beat texture, reverbs, production, atmosphere. The singer floats on top instead of commanding the emotional center. That's why older songs feel more grounded. The voice anchored the experience. 6. Your point about singers not needing to write is historically accurate. There's a modern idea that writing equals authenticity, but performance is its own art form. Whitney didn't write most of her songs, but nobody questions her emotional authenticity because interpretation is artistry. Frank Sinatra didn't write his songs either, but his rephrasing made them his. A great singer transforms material. One more time. A great singer transforms materials into lived experiences. That's the craft. Older R&B prioritizes emotional regulation, not stimulation. You said something powerful. A soul stability. That's exactly it. Old R&B regulated the nervous system. It slowed your breathing. It grounded you emotionally. It allowed you to sit inside your feelings. Modern music often stimulates rather than regulates. It keeps your nervous system activated. That's why I want to shake y'all ass every time, even when it's a fucking slow jam. So keep the nervous system activated, not settled. Because activated listeners stream more. Would you look at that? Grounded listeners sit still. Stillness doesn't feed algorithms. Aaliyah's restraint was a part of her genius. She wasn't loud. She was intimate. She sang like she was inside your personal space. The softness created emotional closeness. She didn't overpower the listener. She invited them inward. That's much harder than singing loudly. Restraint requires control. What people are really missing is emotional patience. Yeah, that shit gone. That shit was bye-bye. Older R&B trusted the listeners to stay present. It doesn't rush to impress you. It unfolded. It lets you settle into it. That's why those songs age so well. They're not tied to trends. They're tied to emotional physiology. And here's the deeper truth. The hunger of that kind of R&B never disappeared. People still crave it. That's why those songs continue to resurface and resonate with younger listeners discovering them for the first time, because the nervous system recognizes authenticity even across generations. All right, so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit because it's kind of off topic, but it's still on topic. And I kind of mentioned this earlier in a sense of what's going to one extreme, like the culture shifted to one extreme. How can we get it back? We shifted to the hyper individualism. How can we get it back to it being human? Like, we're trying to sit here and be these superhuman beings, and I don't feel shit, and I don't cry, and I'm too tough, and I'm this, and that's for Sims, and I ain't no bitch. Like, we humans, bro. We humans. What, you gonna cry in the car? No. So I asked it to shift it back. So how can we shift it back? So I go to chat. So like you said, modern R&B is the reflection of the culture now. The problem is the streaming preemies are the future of the culture. And if they are conditioned to hyper individuality or emotional detachment, how is the community to gain unity and emotional depth again? Chat goes, this is the real question, not about music, about emotional infrastructure. Because culture doesn't just entertain people, it trains people how to feel, relate, and attach. It's a therapy. Think about it. When you're depressed, what do you listen to? Music. When you're happy, what do you listen to? Music. If you're over here, whatever you're feeling, what do you listen to? Music. There's actresses and actors who, when they play a part, they try to figure out who that character is, and then they'll listen to music to get in that mind frame of what they think that character is. Like, music is therapy. So what do you think it's doing to the culture? And you're right. If younger generations are conditioned towards hyper individualism and emotional detachment, then music, relationships, and community all reflects that nervous system state. And I want to make this clear. It's not just the younger generation. Our generation too, millennials, we kind of fucked up as well. But they passed the torch to us, and we passed it even harder. Like, we passed them like 3 of them hoes and a joint along the way. Shit, not even that, because they passed that to us. We've been passing shit. But here's the part most people miss. Culture moves in cycles. Emotional starvation eventually creates emotional hunger. Hyper-individualism is usually a trauma response, not a permanent identity. When people say, I don't need anyone, I'm good on my own, I don't trust nobody, that's often protective language, not aspirational truth. It comes from unstable relationships, witnessing divorce or emotional dysfunction, ghosting culture, social media comparisons, economic instability. Detachment becomes self-protection, but humans are biologically, humans are biologically wired for attachment, dumbass. Look at people walking around with an emotional support animal, and you telling me you don't need nobody? You don't need nobody. You can get by without somebody, but you need a companionship. You need something that when you're overstimulated is going to bring you down. You need something, or a being, a dog, a cat, don't give a fuck, that when you're down brings you up. You can survive on your own, but why? You can suppress it, you can't delete it. Eventually, the nervous system wants depth again. We're already seeing early emotional sensitization in music. Artists like SZA, Brent Faiyaz, and Gavion resonate deeply with younger listeners precisely because they expose emotional conflict, not emotional invincibility. They emit insecurity, longing, contradiction, emotional dependence that honestly cuts through emotional numbness. Even if it's not identical to 90s R&B, it's a movement back to the emotional realism. 3, every emotional detached era is eventually followed by emotionally expressive era. Look at history. The emotionally flashy, materialistic 80s was followed by the emotionally raw 90s. Artists like Mary J. Blige, Lauryn Hill brought pain, vulnerability, spiritual searching back to center. Why? Because people were tired of emotional emptiness. Pain creates depth. Depth creates new art. New art reshapes culture. 4, culture doesn't change from majority first. It changes from emotionally brave minorities. The people who reshape culture are usually the ones willing to feel deeply while others emotionally guarded. They create art that reminds people what emotional openness feels like. That's how emotional permission spreads. One honest voice gives other permissions to drop their armor. 5, music doesn't just reflect culture. It regulates culture. When people repeatedly listen to emotionally open music, their nervous system slowly relearns emotional access. This is neurological pronunciation, bitch. Neurological. This is neurological. Certain vocal tones, chord structures, and emotional delivery literally activates emotional processing centers in the brain. This is why older R&B still makes people feel safe, grounded, and open. Sorry, I was trying to check the camera. It regulates emotional systems that modern life deregulates. Dysregulates. The oversaturation of shallow emotional content eventually creates a counter movement. When everything becomes detached aesthetics, emotionally surface level, people start craving sincerity, depth, emotional truth. This is what already happening quietly. You can see how younger listeners rediscover old artists like Aaliyah, Brandy, Whitney. They feel something different in their nervous systems, even if they can't explain it intellectually. They feel regulated, seen, open. 7, unity doesn't return through forcing people. It returns through emotional safety. People open emotionally when they feel safe, not when they're told to. Music that is sincere, vulnerable, emotionally grounded creates emotional safety. That safety allows attachment to form again. 8, and this is the most important part. This is the most important truth. Culture is not controlled by corporations. It's shaped by creators. Artists decide emotional direction. Every era shifts because artists decide to express something different. The next emotional era of R&B will be shaped by artists who are willing to be emotionally honest again, not to perform detachment, but to reveal attachment. So with that being said, y'all need motherfuckers, y'all need to hire a goddamn vocal coach. That's basically what this needs. Hire a fucking vocal coach. Pick up an instrument. I'm sorry, this is just how I feel. Pick up an instrument, learn some scales, do something, and actually train your goddamn voice. So you're not relying on technology. Make us feel it again. God damn it. Y'all ain't got no heart in y'all shit. You know, y'all ain't put no toe jams in that hole. Y'all ain't put y'all foot in it. Y'all ain't put y'all feet in it. Y'all ain't did shit. You just got in the booths, hit a note, and left. Now put some soul into that shit. Make love to the drum. I forgot what they said on Drumline, but make love to that shit. That's for real. I mean, need y'all to get back to that. But I do want to say this too. Off topic, not really. And I fucking made this up. So if somebody take this, you better credit me, ho. We need to come up with a separate award show. BT gone. 106 & Park era gone. Like, BT need to go ahead and die in BET Awards. I like what they did with Jamie. I did like what they did that. And I don't even watch those shit no more. But I saw Jamie and that they did something for him. So I had to watch that clip. And I did like how they went about that. So props on that. But again, that's dead. BET Awards, dead. We need to come up with a separate show. It can still be there, but that's going to be for the ratchet. We need to come to where there's black excellence and there's elegance. Okay, there needs to be, and we can call it culture awards. Call it culture awards, and then the actual award would be flowers. So you're giving the flowers, right? So giving the flowers at the culture award, and this is where we have dress codes, and you can still show a little bit of skin. Nothing is wrong with not showing skin, but it needs to be, all outfits has to be approved by somebody. Don't know who, but all outfits need to be approved. We don't need you to sit here and look like you about to go to the Blue Flame afterwards. Fuck no. Now you can show a titty, you can show a stomach, you show some legs. You might can get away with 2 sides, but you can't do all 3. Pick one or 2, depending. And even if that, you could only show like maybe 40% of skin, 50% of skin, but no more than 58. Don't know. But that could be something that worked in the fucking program, you know what I'm saying? But again, so it needs to be, this is Black excellence, okay? And we're doing elegance. It needs to be a dress code. We need to start some shit on time. We need to change the goddamn fire detector. You know what I'm saying? We need to get back into looking like we got some common sense. You can probably sit here and argue with me to do, but on the outside looking in, we look crazy. And we need to get back to that. So bring out the culture awards and let's give flowers to the people that were before. Heather Headley. Heather Headley. You remember her? She needs her flowers. A. Marie, give her flowers. When the shoot, we gonna go as far back as let me see. Yes, we gonna even give flowers to Hazel Scott. I'm sorry, I have to hit it with the finesse 2 times, whatever his name is. We gotta hit it with the Hazel Scott. Sorry. That was funny. It just came to my mind. Yes, no. So we need to go ahead and make those, give our flowers to the people that we'll probably never give flowers to, and respect the culture, respect the art, respect all that. The charts is non-existent at the culture awards. It's talent, it's gifts, it's here to actually hear the artistry. That's why I say, so Tyler Perry, whoever got the money, well, Tyler Perry got BET, I think. Somebody, anybody, please. Just culture awards, roses, flowers, don't know, tulips, daisies, something. And we give it to our soldiers of the arts. That's all I gotta say.